Hello and thank you. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. I'm so excited you guys have joined me today. I'm going to be talking about how to get ready for summer and make my top natural, non-toxic sunscreen recommendations because I know you guys have a lot of concerns and questions about, using beauty products and skincare products and sun protection products that work, but also help to protect your skin. So I'll be talking all about those and make my recommendations. I have all the bottles here. I'm going to show you about which ones I like and why I like them, so you can choose the one that works for you. I'm also going to be talking about how a study finds that 73% of sunscreens don't work, and I'll show you some that do. And if they're not working, why you can be, a victim of the deadliest form of skin cancer, which is melanoma skin cancer. And so why you want to avoid this ingredient that a lot of so-called natural sunscreens contain. And I'll also talk about how to detox it and even test for it. And toxins in most sunscreens, the chemical sunscreens, and what they're doing to your hormones, libido, and health. And I'll also talk about, when you're applying something on your skin, those toxins absorb 10 times more effectively than if you ingested them through your mouth, say if you ate a food. So what goes, on your skin goes directly into your body. So you need to be very aware of what you're putting on your body. I'll talk about my very favorite natural sunscreen and spray sunscreens as well, because people like those. And my recommendations that don't make you look white as a ghost. So some of these natural sunscreens are formulated in interesting ways that you apply them and you look like Casper the Ghost. So we want to avoid that as well. And I'll also talk about how chemical sunscreens are killing fish and coral reefs. So it's another reason to not use chemical sunscreens. They're even banned in Hawaii because they're killing our precious coral reefs that take hundreds of years to build. So we don't want to contribute to that as well. So first, let's talk about this study that found that 73% of sunscreens don't work. This was done by the EWG, Environmental Working Group, and for their 11th annual sunscreen guide, the researchers of the nonprofit Environmental Working Group evaluated UV ray protections, toxic ingredients, and other health hazards in about 900 different sunscreens, 500 SPF labeled moisturizers, and more than 100 lip products. You guys can learn about that at ewg.org/sunscreen. So that's the complete, study that they did. And, one of the issues that if in this study, they found that 73% of sunscreens don't work. So if they're not working, you are exposing yourself to melanoma, one of the deadliest forms of skin cancer. So, while you need to get out in the sun without sunscreen for a period of time and, allow vitamin D production to be happening, for me, I can go out in the sun for about 45 minutes before I'll burn. So I tend to go out in the sun and I'll just go without anything on my arms and legs and sometimes my face as well, and allow myself to get some sun exposure. And then if I'm in the sun for longer than 45 minutes or maybe an hour, I'll put on sunscreen. But I really want to get that exposure so that I get that vitamin D production, because if you put on sunscreen, you go outside, you're filtering the UV light, the ultraviolet radiation that is going to help to produce vitamin D. So there has to be a happy medium. Of course, this all depends on your sensitivity to the sun and how fair you are or dark you are. But you want to be factoring that in as well with your sun exposure. So you want to avoid this toxic ingredient in sunscreens that a lot of so-called natural ingredients sunscreens contain. So one thing I do like is natural sunscreens that contain zinc oxide. That's perfectly safe. Even if it's nanonized or microfine zinc, that is fine. A lot of people prefer that because it's more sheer. So it goes on, a little bit more sheer. The regular zinc oxide is something you see like surfers wearing, where they have like the full white mineral barrier on their nose so it does not get burned. They're in the sun every single day. So they need that heavy duty barrier on their nose and their ears and other places that are susceptible to burning. But for us ladies who are going to the beach, we don't want to look like Casper the Ghost. I don't know about you, but I don't. So I want to put on something kind of sheer and fine, and the Nanonized zinc is perfectly fine for that. A lot of natural sunscreens contain titanium dioxide, and there's some debate as to whether this ingredient is safe. It's found in a lot of natural sunscreens, and titanium dioxide is a possible human carcinogen, but only for inhalation, and products can be aerosolized, so the spray sunscreens. And it appears that this ingredient, the titanium dioxide, has a low skin penetration, but inhalation is a concern. So I think it's likely a safe ingredient in sunscreen lotion, but you just want to avoid any sunscreens that for spray have titanium dioxide in them. So, but then there's nanoparticle or nanonized or micronized titanium dioxide. This ingredient is concerning. This ingredient you do want to avoid. There is a ton of research. I'm going to be posting an article about micronized or nanonized titanium dioxide in particular. I was just doing tons and tons of research on this, and these nanonized particles are problematic because they're used in sunscreens because they're colorless. So people like that because they go on sheer and they still absorb ultraviolet light, so they protect you from the sun. But these penetrate the cells and can cause DNA damage after exposure to sunlight. And this oxidative damage can lead to cancer in the skin. And it's also shown in research to cause gut dysbiosis, kidney damage, brain injury, arthritis even. It accumulates in the liver, causing liver injury. It can cause heart injury, pulmonary or lung inflammation, bronchial damage, and gut lining cell mutations or gastric cancer. So really, really nasty stuff. So you really want to be careful, because it's not only sunscreens that are a concern. Titanium dioxide nanoparticles are widely used in cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, paint, foods, and supplements because they whiten the products. People don't want brown probiotics or brown facial lotion. So manufacturers will add this titanium dioxide, the nanonized particles, to their products so that they don't create any kind of they just are whitening product essentially in these products. And so now let's talk about how a majority of the sunscreens on the market are chemical barrier sunscreens and what they're doing to your hormones, your libido, and to your health in general. So there's these are products, these chemical-based sunscreens. There are products that will typically say on the label, apply 30 minutes before going into the sun. That is kind of your clue that it contains a chemical sunscreen. But there's about 6 active ingredients that are found in most chemical sunscreens. These are oxybenzone, avobenzone, octosalate, octocrylene, homosalate, and octinoxate. So why don't I just post a link to these? You want to avoid these ingredients in sunscreen, okay? Because we do not want to be affecting our hormones, just so that when there's perfectly good alternatives to these chemical sunscreens. So one of the problems with these chemical sunscreens is that your skin absorbs the sunscreen. And so the chemicals in these sunscreens go directly into your body. So you need to be aware of their safety. When you put something on your skin, it can have 10 times the absorption rate into your body as something that you ingest. Because when you ingest something, at least there's filtration by your liver. So you don't enjoy that as much when you just put something directly on your skin. So when the FDA in the US, who is supposed to protect us, began to consider sunscreen safety in the 1970s, it grandfathered in a bunch of active ingredients in the late 1970s without reviewing the evidence of their potential hazard. So this can happen when, they get a kickback or a backlash from some of these big corporations and making these products. These companies want favor, they want to be grandfathered in, and that's what happened. So any ingredients produced or introduced into the market after the 1970s had more rigorous more rigorous testing before they're allowed in ingredients. But the Danish EPA reviewed the safety of active ingredients in sunscreens and concluded that most lacked enough information to establish their safety. So in the case of 16 of the 19 ingredients studied, there was no information about their potential to cause cancer. And then the published studies suggest that several chemical filters interact with human sex and thyroid hormones. There was not enough information about any of them to determine the potential risks for humans from hormone disruption. But we do know, based in the research, that there are some ingredients that without a doubt, do cause hormone disruption. So these are the oxybenzones, the octinoxate, and the homosalate. These are known hormone disruptors. They interfere in your estrogen production, interfere in testosterone production. This is going to cause concerns as far as libido and fertility with pregnancy. So you really need to be careful and be aware of what you're putting on your skin and how it's acting on your body and your hormones. We need estrogen and testosterone for so many different things in the body to regulate our mood. If you have too much estrogen in your body, you can produce more fat. And all these chemicals that we're exposed to, our body will retain fat on our body to have a storage receptacle or a garbage can to store these toxins away from vital organs. So a lot of times people have trouble with resistant weight loss when they have a lot of these chemicals in their body. So let's talk about my favorite natural sunscreens. You guys have been waiting for this. So number one, I really like Anne Marie's Skincare. So this is just a sample I have that they sent me. I don't have the full bottle. And I really like this one because if you just can see, it's tinted. So when a product has this kind of white ingredient in it, the zinc dioxide, it's a white ingredient so that it's safe. It's not the nanonized kind. A lot of companies will put a tint in the sunscreen so that, it's like a nice little foundation essentially. It has a really nice smell. They use essential oils, so that can go on your skin really nice. And this one's a little bit greasy, but I think it's totally fine. You can put some natural powder on it. So I like it because it has a tint. Definitely don't mind a tint. My next one is one by Beauty Counter. I love Beauty Counter, and I'll give you guys the link here to Beauty Counter. I really like these sunscreens. I couldn't get a direct link for you guys, but at least this will help. So I really like this sun protection collection from Beauty Counter. So this one here, this is just a sample. It's called Counter Sun. This one is really, really nice. I like how it goes on really sheer. It's a mineral sunscreen. They also have a really nice stick. It's the Protect Stick Sunscreen. I really, really like this one also. It has a really nice kind of like almond smell. And that one you can put on if you need like a thicker coverage on your nose or your ears or what have you. You can put this on your lips also. And they also have a lip sunscreen. A lot of people forget their lips. So unless you want your lips, aged and wrinkly, you need to put some sunscreen protection on them. Okay. So let me give you this Beauty Counter link right here. That's one of my favorite, my very favorite sunscreens. I also really like My Chel. This is My Chel is one I love here. It's called Sun Shield Coconut. It's a SPF 28. This one's really, really nice. It has a really nice texture. It goes on very, very sheer. So I'm kind of rubbing it in here, and it has a nice, somewhat sheer kind of consistency to it. But you can rub it in a little bit better. It'll rub right in. It has a really, really nice, very light coconut scent. Really, really like this one a lot. And so I highly recommend this one. I don't, however, like My Chill's spray sunscreen. Don't like it because it goes on white as a ghost. I had bought this and took it to the beach, and because I love the My Chill face lotion, so I used this at the beach and sprayed it on my legs, and my legs looked like I had put a white sheet over them. Yes, so I definitely was protecting my skin from the sun without a doubt, but I did not like the consistency of it. So most of the time I would recommend not doing any kind of sprays, especially from some of the major sunscreen brands. They're really toxic. But I do like this Goddess Garden spray tan. This is my favorite one. This one's really, really nice, and it's no chemical sunscreen. I really, really like this one because it goes on a little bit white, but it's not like the My Chill where you're white as a ghost. So this one's great. Also, there's some other ones that are okay. I bought this one, this Babo Botanicals, and this is high rated on the ewg.org/sunscreens. And it seemed like it would be a really nice one, but I don't like it because it doesn't have the micronized titanium dioxide. It just has the regular large particle titanium dioxide, which is perfectly fine. But it was just really, really thick. It's really, really white. And so for me, I just didn't like it. I probably wouldn't use it again. It just goes on like super, super thick like that. So I'll pass. And I'm just going to use that one on Winter because she doesn't care if she's white as a sheet. So those are my top recommendations. These are ones I've actually used. I actually have them. I've tested them for you. So, we don't only want to be worried about function, but also texture. And if something has a nice texture, a nice feel to it, a nice scent or no scent. So before I make a recommendation on anything, I test it myself because EWG has hundreds of sunscreens that it recommends, but it can be hard to make a choice out of all those sunscreens. Another thing I wanted to talk about is how chemical sunscreens are killing fish and coral reefs. And that's why chemical sunscreens are banned in Hawaii. That's why 100% against chemical sunscreens. So not only thinking about your health, but you want to be thinking about your impact on the environment. I'm a scuba diver. So I'm really sensitive to anything that harms our fragile coral reefs, because when those collapse, our oceans are going to be in trouble. So if you enjoy eating fish, you want to be thinking about, what impact you can make just one person at a time by avoiding chemical sunscreens and then going into the ocean. One of the problems is the titanium dioxide in some of these sunscreens. So it's not only the chemicals, but titanium dioxide also produces hydrogen peroxide. And there was one study I was reading that showed that tourism activities on a Mediterranean beach during a summer day released in order of 4 kilograms of titanium dioxide nanoparticles into the water and produced enough hydrogen peroxide for 270 nanomoles a day. And so that's quite a bit of hydrogen peroxide that can be killing good bacteria and things in the ocean and harming our fish. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to ask me. Leave a comment about your favorite sunscreens also, and I'll answer your questions when I'm all done here. So I want to talk a little bit about how to detox titanium dioxide. I was reading some really interesting research that ginkgo biloba helps to reverse the kidney damage and kidney effects of titanium dioxide. So that's one way. Modified citrus pectin is another way to absorb micronized titanium dioxide and chemical sunscreen ingredients as well. So that's a great thing. It's just kind of a catch-all type of ingredient that absorbs a lot of different metals and chemicals, but that's shown in the research to absorb titanium dioxide. And then if you have acute toxicity, but I'd only use this for acute toxicity of titanium dioxide, is DMSA, which is a synthetic amino acid that will bind on to titanium dioxide and detox it. But then there's also some grapeseed extract. That won't detox it, but it can protect from the damage. It can protect from the damage that micronized titanium dioxide can cause. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. It's quite a mouthful there. I had a lot of stuff I wanted to tell you guys. I just find this really, really fascinating, and I love making recommendations to you guys because it can be hard to kind of wade through all of that information. And I've tried out so many different sunscreens throughout my entire life because I just grew up at the beach and have always protected my skin. And sometimes to the point of being a freak, when I was younger, I actually wanted to be a dermatologist, and I was always reading books about skin and how to protect your skin, and got freaked out about all the skin cancer. You remember in the 90s, oh my God, you're gonna get skin cancer. You have to protect your skin from the sun. You always have to wear sunscreen and protect your body. And so for years, even decades, I wore really strong sunscreen. I didn't leave my house without sunscreen. I never left the house without putting on my face. I wore, when I was at USC, the business school, I was, going around campus with an umbrella. I would drive with gloves. Like I was really kind of taking it to an extreme. But I just thought I was being healthy. I thought I was protecting myself from cancer. And yes, the sun itself doesn't cause cancer if you get a reasonable amount of exposure. It's just you don't want to burn. So you want to stay in the sun long enough to burn and then put on sunscreen right before that point where you know that your skin type burns, so that you can produce vitamin D, which has a cancer protective effect. So I'm not a fan of supplementing with vitamin D. I prefer people get vitamin D naturally from the sun and produce it naturally. So let's get to your questions here. So the first one here, so Diane Kurtz, I wish more people realize how toxic these sunscreens are. Yeah, they are really, really nasty. It's kind of crazy. Oh, no, Sutton, there's no comments here. Okay, great. So you guys don't have that many questions. So now is the time to ask me any questions that you guys have. But if you don't have any, thank you so much for joining me on today's Facebook Live. I think I just answered all your questions just with my lecture. So if you guys missed any of my lecture here, I talked about how a study finds that 73% of sunscreens don't work. If they're not working, why you can be subject to developing melanoma, which is one of the deadliest forms of skin cancer. Why you want to avoid titanium dioxide that's been micronized or nanonized, and how to detox it. How the chemical toxins in most sunscreens and what they're doing to your hormones, libido, and health. And my favorite natural sunscreen recommendations, and how chemical sunscreens are killing our fish and our coral reefs, and just another reason to avoid chemical sunscreens. Okay, great. So I have one question here. So Stacy, so how often do you need to reapply natural sunscreens? Well, it probably just depends on how thick the application was, well, the first application, and also if you're going into the water or how much you're sweating. So it's typically advised, a lot of these sunscreens advise to apply it maybe every, says apply it literally 15 minutes before sun exposure, reapply at least every 2 hours after swimming or sweating. So I guess about every 2 hours would be appropriate. But again, it just depends on the product that you're using. Some products are, sport, so they're more thick, so they don't come off so easily when exposed to sweat or water. So those you may not have to reapply as often, but it just depends on the product that you are using. So that's all for now. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this Facebook Live. It's my pleasure to serve you guys, to teach you all about how to avoid toxins and how what products to use instead of all that, and kind of wade through all that marketing, very brilliant marketing campaigns and packaging that is meant to trick you into buying toxic products that harm your health. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And also just let you know, if you are concerned at all about titanium dioxide, if you've been using micronized titanium dioxide, you can test for it. You can do a hair analysis and test for your levels of titanium dioxide. And you can do that right here at this link if you're at all concerned whatsoever about titanium dioxide, which I do find many clients have toxic levels of it. You can determine your levels of it and detox it. So just thought I'd throw that in there, some food for thought, as long as we're talking about titanium dioxide. It does cause problems with people. In fact, I will list, I'll copy and paste this list of this research that I just did about the different health issues that titanium dioxide can cause. And have all this research I found was on Green Med Info, actually. And so really can lead to a lot of different health issues. So it can be intelligent, very prudent to do a hair mineral analysis, find out if you have titanium dioxide. So then you could take steps to detox it. Modified citrus pectin is probably one of the best ways to do that. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week.